Hello, Miami. You're watching 305 Sports Now, your home podcast and channel for all things Miami sports related. I am Will.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no, I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up, it's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday afternoon, and thank you so much for watching and listening to 305 Sports Now. Today, we are doing some Heat Talk, and I have two of some of the most famous brothers in Miami when it comes to the content creation and the podcasting world and the radio world as well, right? The first one I'm going to introduce is the popular host of the This Is Football podcast, and none other than Mr. Daniel Solana, or you can call him Danny. How you doing, Danny? How's everything going?
Pretty good, pretty good. How's it going with you? How was your weekend? Did you have a nice Mother's Day weekend?
I did. My wife is actually out of town. She's in the police memorials over in Washington D.C., the 36th Annual Police Memorials. But we did a little something before she left, and then we're gonna do something when she gets back as well. So how about you? How about yours?
Mine was a little rough, man. My wife got back from a work trip on Friday with COVID, so we've been inside and staying away from the world for a few days as a family here. So it's been rough, but appreciate you having me on, and appreciate you having the less popular Solana brother on the show as well, because we all know that Alex is the star of the family when it comes to radio and podcasting. So appreciate you tagging me along for as a third wheel on this one.
Well, as Alex is okay, he gets the job done. He gets the job done. All right. Speaking of Alex, all right, he is the pregame, halftime, and postgame host on Miami Heat Radio Network, and he is the executive producer of the very popular Hawkman and Crowder show on 560 WQAM. And the man I'm introducing is Mr. Alejandro Solana, right? The other Solana brothers. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Good to see you, Danny. Whatever.
I have to ask you, Alex, how was my intro?
It was good. Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. And if I messed up, it's just hockey.
Just hockey, and we're talking hockey. So
we're
just talking.
You fell off a bridge. It's just hockey, and so on. You guys don't know what I'm talking about today in the Hawkman and Crowder show. Alejandro and his buddies Mark Hawkman and Channing Crowder were poking fun at Paul Maurice, the very talented head coach of the Florida Panthers, and how everything's just hockey to him and so on. So everything became hockey, whether eating a burger is hockey, whether falling and tripping over a sidewalk is hockey. So I thought I'd play on the joke a little bit with Alex a little bit here today.
Yeah, it's just hockey. I mean, whatever. It's just hockey. Yeah.
It's just hockey. It absolutely is. And by the way, unlike Brandon Tobin, I think you look fantastic wearing your suits, when you go to Heat games.
Thank you. Yeah, right. Tobes. I mean, not everybody wears a Bahama t-shirt to work every day. All right, Tobin. Sometimes you got to look good when you go to work.
I'm telling you, man, you guys are both professionals, man. I really love having you both on. I love hearing your takes, whether it's soccer, whether it's basketball. And lately, Alejandro, you've been getting very much involved, and Danny as well, in the hockey world. So man, like I said, thank you for what you guys do, and you bring a lot of entertainment. And one thing that both of you do is that it helps us escape, what is the reality of life and so on. So let's break things down, okay? Well, first things foremost, the Miami Heat finished the season 46-36. They ended up once again in another play-in game. Lost to 76ers, were able to beat Chicago as well. Lost Jimmy Butler in the Philadelphia series, but faced a very tough juggernaut of a Boston Celtics team. Okay, starting first with Alejandro, since he covers the Miami Heat in general. How would you rate the Miami Heat season, especially with Jimmy Butler playing only 65 games and Tyler Hero only playing 42?
Yeah. Did Jimmy play 65 or I think it was less, right? I think it was just 60 games this season.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not including the one play-in tournament. I could be wrong, by the way, but I'm pretty sure it was just 60 games. But either way, I mean, it's too little, as Pat Riley said in his end of season press conference. I mean,
60
like
games.
60 games, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
60. Okay. Oh, I don't know where I got 65 from.
So how would I rate the season like overall? I mean, they lost in the first round. You know, I think there's context to it. I know people don't want to have that conversation. You know, injuries happened. Some of them were just unfortunate luck for Miami. Um, Others could be, you know, a consequence of having a roster like the Heat do. Um, but the reality is, you know, they lost in the first round. They were in the playing tournament again, whether it was because of injury or not. Like that's not a good season. It's just not. I think had they been fully healthy, Rozier, Bam, Jimmy, and Hero, for a longer stretch, we never really got to see those four play together. Truthfully, over like a consistent period of time, had those four been healthy, would this team be playing still? I believe they would be, but the reality is that, you know, they weren't healthy and they got bounced in the first round without their best player. So, yeah, I mean, overall, it was not a good season. You know, I if we're giving them like a grade, I'd say the highest you could give them is a C, like the highest, and it's probably lower than that. That's just the truth.
Donnie, what's your take?
Look, man, he you know, Alex says it the way it is. I'm gonna give you more of a fan perspective because that's the way that I, you know, take in the games. And look, I said it before the beginning of the season. It was finals or bust, in my opinion, just based off of, you know, how the Heat played last year, what I saw from Triple J in, you know, in preseason and kind of in the early games. You know, I was, you know, going all in. I even threw down some money on Triple J winning the Rookie of the Year as a flyer. You know, I was all in on this Heat team, you know, getting back to the finals. Now, um, you know, the injury bug got them, and it got them at the wrong time. Last year, the injury bug got them, and you know that's kind of why they were in the playing game last year. But they got healthy at the right time. Other than, you know, Tyler Hero famously missing the playoffs last year, but other than that, they were a healthy team. They got Jimmy at, you know, at his healthiest last year in the playoffs, and he led them to a fantastic finals run. Like Alex said, had they had been healthy going into the playoffs, first, I don't think they would have been in the play-in. You know, they if had they win had they been healthy down the stretch, they probably would have been a top 4 seed, seeing as how close it was between the 2 seed and the 8 seed. It was between, I think, 3 games. It was kind of crazy that it was like that, and the Knicks ended up getting the 2 seed, which was crazy. So you look back at some of those games at the end of the season, and you know, some key games that they lost where players were, you know, we were missing key players in those games against Philadelphia, in the games against Indiana, and things like that. You can't miss players in key moments of the season and expect to get to far places. Now, people call me crazy for this take, but I honestly believe if Jimmy Butler was 100% healthy with the roster that we had at the end of the season, we still beat the Celtics in 7. I truly believe that. So that's my take. Overall,
I don't think
it was kind of a bust, but I
yeah,
think they beat the Celtics.
I don't think you're crazy. One thing about Coach Spo, if the Heat are healthy and he has time to prepare just for one team, the Heat do elevate their game defensively and also offensively as well. And Jimmy does play a lot better in the playoffs. But I wanted to ask Alex this question. I want to ask you the same thing, Danny. This might be a silly take, but I'm just considering it. The Miami Heat have played a lot of games the last 5 years. I would say since Jimmy Butler's been a member of the Heat, a couple of finals trips, Eastern Conference trip as well, and they got bounced out against Milwaukee, and they got bounced out this season. Could it be that there's some fatigue and layover from the fact that they've been playing so many games comparable to other teams in the NBA, or am I just you know over analyzing?
Yeah, I mean, I get like if we want to do that in 2021, I would have been down, right? You had the shortened season because of COVID, everybody's in the bubble, and then you had the shortened off season, and then the following year, what was it? All 4 teams that made the 2 conference finals were bounced in like the first or second round of the playoffs. The Bucks and the Suns end up going and to the NBA Finals. Like, I would have been down for that excuse that year, but no, I mean, it's just, Boston's been in the conference finals every year, going back, what, 3-4 seasons now.
Mhm.
So, I mean, no, I don't use that as an excuse. Look, could it lead to more injury? Like, sure, I guess you could make the argument that the more games played, the less time you have to recover. But hey, this is the NBA. I mean, if you want to be a perennial title contender, you're going to be playing late into the season. You're going to have shorter off seasons, but I mean, you still have over 3 months to kind of rest, recover, get ready. And this is what happens when your best player is 34 years old. You risk being injured, and that's something that the Celtics right now have the luxury of having a younger team, a younger talented team, and you're kind of looking at the NBA playoffs right now in its entirety, and you're kind of looking at what I think would be a fair thing to say, like the changing of the guard. Who's right now taking over in the postseason? It's those younger teams. You're seeing Anthony Edwards kind of step up. I know that series is crazy right now, but you're looking at a Pacers team, Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner. Like, that's a younger team. The Denver Nuggets aren't necessarily a younger team, but Jokic is below 30. Jamal Murray is below 30. Like, yeah, I mean, that's the benefit of building a young team and being able to grow. And Miami got Jimmy Butler later on in his career, so it's just a reality that they have to that they had to live with over the past 5 seasons.
Danny?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could blame it on the fact of that they're just tired or it's fatigue or that they're playing late in the season because I mean everybody is playing 82 games or everybody is slated to play 82 games. Some people go further into the playoffs and like Alex said, the Celtics being young, they've done it every single year. They go deep and they're just not injured. So I kind of am a little on the fence in terms of, yeah, you can kind of chalk it up to maybe you have a couple of old guys and they got hurt and Jimmy, things like that. But you had Duncan get hurt at the end of the season and he's pretty young. You had Tyler only play half a season and Tyler's been pretty injury prone in his 4 seasons in the NBA. He's missed already an entire playoffs or 2, if I'm not mistaken. And now he missed half of this season. So, I don't know if necessarily it's just, the way that the NBA gods have just, denounced it to be, or, pronounced it to be, but, it is what it is. You just got to face the, the music that's in front of you. And unfortunately for the Heat this season, it just wasn't for them. I think the 2 big things that you can take away is that you got to see a lot of Jaime Jaquez Jr., with Hero and with Butler missing so much time. And you also got to see Nikola Jovic, which we didn't get to see a lot of him last year. And that really, really gets you excited for either A, they can be used for trade pieces, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about that later, or B, what this team could be with a couple of, pretty young studs that look to have it all. And so I get, it was a crappy season, man. But again, a little bit of positive from the negative.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that also killed Miami, the month of January was just atrocious. That's, I believe, the month where they had the 7-game losing streak. And not only that, you also lost the teams in crucial situations. They had that game against Washington that they should have won that they lost. And then they had the same game against Philadelphia that they should have won and they lost late into the season. That could have actually helped them out with seeding, probably going to put them in the 4th or 5th seed as well. And then and let's not forget, they will go through some horrific scoring droughts where they would score 2 points in 10 minutes or 2 points in 8 minutes. And those are just things that you can't do. So there's been a lot of talk about them, kind of taking the season a little lackadaisically, and getting in preparation for the playoffs. Alejandro, you cover the team. You're there. You're there basically every single night that they're at home. Is that the case, or is it just that the this other teams, the Miami Heat, they have a target on their back because they're the Heat. They've been in the Eastern Conference Finals. They've been, to the finals themselves. So teams are just upping their game against them. So what exactly is it?
No. I mean, I guess you could say they have a target on their back, but I mean, every good team has a target on their back. No, I mean, look, just going back to your initial question, here's the reality of what happened with the Heat this season. Yes, injury bug killed them. Absolutely. There were like my brother said, terrible timing for injuries. I thought Duncan Robinson, as he mentioned, was a great example of that because even without Jimmy Butler back, like you're scrambling looking for offense. And this year, Duncan in the starting lineup was really, really good, even in games where Jimmy Butler wasn't available. And it wasn't just knocking down threes. We talked so much about his ability to put the ball on the ground in that pick and roll with Bam Adebayo. I thought his passing, his ability to pass the ball out of a pick and roll or while driving was a great improvement of his. The Heat offense was significantly better with Duncan Robinson on the floor this season than when he wasn't. And to not only lose Jimmy Butler, to not have Terry Rozier, and then to not have Duncan Robinson, that's terrible luck for this team. But when you go back to the offseason, every other team got significantly better. The Bucks got Damian Lillard, and I'm not blaming Pat Riley or the Heat front office or anybody with the Heat for not being able to land Dame. Clearly, Joe Cronin, that bum, just had no interest in dealing him to the Heat. And hey, have fun with your trash team over there in Portland.
Was Scoot? They didn't want. Hey, honestly, they didn't want Tyler Hero because they had Scoot. What did Scoot do?
Yeah, I don't know, but
He's
whatever.
Along the season.
That like. I still think if we look back and analyze that trade now, like you're telling me the Blazers wouldn't have liked to have had Nico or Jaime. I mean, whatever. But the reality is that he didn't get him. The Celtics got better. They poached Drew Holiday from that deal. The Pacers got better. They got Pascal Siakam. And credit to the Knicks. I mean, they got blown out on Sunday night. And I hate the Knicks more than any franchise. I hate every New York franchise. But the reality is, like, they got better. And Jalen Brunson's a legit scoring threat. And the Heat just simply didn't get better, So when you look throughout the season, it's not just that Washington loss. I mean, Miami didn't win any games against the top 4 seeds in the Western Conference. Their record against playoff teams this season was not good. Their record at home was less than average. I mean, they ended up above 500, but you can't go 23-21 at home or whatever the number ended up being with the playing tournament win. Like, you can't do that if, especially when you're as injured as you are, and the Eastern Conference battle, between the 2 and 8 seed is as close as it is. And, at the end of the season, with all that being said, at the end of the season, still had a chance to salvage it. They beat the Knicks at home. That was great. They had an 8-point lead against the Philadelphia 76ers in the fourth quarter with 8 minutes remaining, and their offense went totally cold. Jimmy Butler was available for that game. They went on the road to play Indiana in a must-win game. They're down 23 points in the first half, and then still had a chance late to win that game as well. And then in that home game against Dallas, they just got their mouths broken in on their home floor. I mean, they had their opportunities to salvage what was a pretty bad season, a really up and down season. And again, a lot of it had to do with injuries. So I'm not downplaying that. I mean, it's a reality. But they ended up in the situation that they couldn't end up in, which was back in the playing tournament. And you're playing with fire, trying to replicate what they did a season ago. You're playing with fire, trying to do that 2 years in a row. And, as the saying goes, they messed around and they found out.
Yeah, I totally agree. Danny, you want to chime in?
No, I mean, he basically said it. I mean, it was essentially a mixture of, bad timing, like we talked about earlier with injuries. And one other thing that we haven't pointed out yet is, and Alex pointed it out, I mean, every team got better. The Heat got better because they had to get better. There was no option. So they did that trade, I don't want to say out of desperation, but I don't know if that would have been option A, B, C, or D. It probably was option, F or G. Did it turn out to be good? In my opinion, absolutely. I think when we all kind of saw that trade happening, we were like, Rozier, he has that, that amount of years left on his contract. We thought we were going to get, maybe an expiring or something else. But in my opinion, once Terry was able to practice with the team and he was able to understand the playbook and understand Miami Heat basketball, I think he was a beautiful fit right alongside the other guys. And he was really getting into his groove right before he had that neck injury. He had a few games there towards the end of the season where he just took over in the second half, and he had some masterpieces in the fourth quarter, and he, put the team on his back and won the game. So that was a big piece that you're missing in the playoffs. Not only Jimmy. Now, you start to talk about some of the other injuries, and I know everybody focuses on Jimmy because he's your big money guy. He's your, he's like your go-to guy, your playmaker. But the other injuries, like I said, to Rozier and to Duncan Robinson, I think hurt the Heat even more, because if you have those two guys, I think you still have an option to win some of the games down the stretch. You have more of a chance and not have to be in that play-in seed and still have a chance against some of these other teams in the playoffs. Because I don't know if you've looked, if you've been watching the NBA playoffs this year, but it's been just up and down, atrocious. You got the Magic in the playoffs, the Cavs, and again, not taking away from what they've done, but it's just not your typical year where you have, your star-studded teams, other than maybe the Celtics and the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks are missing Randall, and they're going pretty deep. So it just goes to show you, when you have more than one or two options, you can make a run in the playoffs, and they were able to last year. They weren't able to this year.
Well, they faced Boston in the playoffs, and Boston was a juggernaut team this year. And I do believe that if the Miami Heat would have had Terry Rozier and would have had Jimmy Butler, it would have been a different series. And I'm saying the Heat would have won, but I do think the Miami Heat would have made it definitely more competitive. But it was just, it was really bad. They lose 4 games out of 5. They were never in any of those games, with the exception of the one that they won, which was Game 2, where they just shot the lights out. In particular, what exactly went wrong? Was it defense? Was it they couldn't make shots? Was it a lack of continuity that rolled into the playoffs? Alex, you covered them. What's up?
What went wrong? You don't have Jimmy Butler, you don't have Dunk. Yeah, it's just injury. Yeah, I don't know if the Heat would have beaten Boston at full strength. I don't love that matchup. This is probably the best Boston team that the Heat have faced going back a couple seasons. All those accolades that they broke during the regular season, it's no joke. I still don't think they'll win a title this year. Maybe I'm wrong, but I still think, when push comes to shove late in the season, especially in the NBA Finals, we'll see if Brown and Tatum have what it takes to hit the big shots, and that's still my concern with them. But as far as the actual product on the floor, no, I think defensively the Heat did enough, right? The Celtics, bro, it's been 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks, so I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think the Celtics averaged 121 points per game this season. They did it on stupid efficiency on both ends of the floor. The Heat held them outside of Game 5, which Miami goes into that stadium just they would have asked Jax to suit up if they needed a big body. They go into that Game 5 situation. It's an impossible situation. But prior to that, every single game that they played, they held Boston well below their season average per game. So I thought defensively, this team, for what was out there, I thought they did an incredible job. I thought Bam was absolutely unbelievable this series, offensively and defensively. But yeah, they just didn't have enough offense. What they needed to do to win games was to break franchise records in 3-point shooting makes and in efficiency, which is what they did in Game 2. Literally, they set a franchise record, most threes made in a playoff game. They did it on 50+% shooting. They were just perfect. They had to play absolutely perfect basketball from start to finish, and their threes had to go in. And asking a team to do that when really they don't have the best selection of 3-point shooters out there taking those shots. You're praying for a miracle to hit 4 times. You're not going to do that against a really good Boston team. You're just not. So, yeah, I mean, that's what happened in the series. I'm not going to sit here and like praise Boston for, I mean, they did what they had to do. They shouldn't have even lost a game to the Miami Heat. So you credit the Heat for taking one.
Frankly speaking, before I get to Danny, I will say this though: they had a lot of open looks in all 5 games, and they missed a lot of shots, especially Game 5. They were like 3 for 25 on three, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 3 for 28, or
3 for
3 for
28.
29. They didn't even make one in the second half. But like, I mean, Boston has that 44-14 run. I mean, like Game 5, they just ran away with it. Boston, they ran away with it. If you were going to have any luck after stealing Game 2, you had to split at home. You had to. And if you didn't split at home, you kind of figured that series was donezo. And I thought, there were stretches in Game 3 and in Game 4 where Miami was able to like be within striking distance in the first quarter, the second quarter, but their offense just stalled and stalled and stalled.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think a big takeaway is, okay, you're without Jimmy Butler, you're without Duncan Robinson, you're without Terry Rozier. We're all looking for Hero and Bam. How are they going to play in this series? And I thought Bam really showed you that, hey, this franchise is building around Bam Adebayo now. Like, I'm not saying he can be your best player to go win a title, but I think as far as like a core piece that you build around and that you try to, put talent to suit him. I think he showed you that he's that dude. But Tyler Hero, and it's not an indictment on Hero, like he's not a number 1 guy. He's not a number 2 guy. He's just not. But I think, this series further cemented that. Like if there was any idea, well, can Tyler be a 1 or a 2? And I'm not just talking about for the Heat, for anybody else, right? Can he be? Who knows? Well, the Celtics prioritized limiting Tyler Hero. That was their number 1 thing. They said, hey, Caleb Martin, Haywood Highsmith, Patty Mills, Niko Jovic, go ahead, shoot as many threes as you want. We're not going to let Tyler Hero go off. We're gonna play physical against him. We're gonna try to keep the ball out of his hands. And great elite players, 1s and 2s in the NBA, are able to overcome that type of defensive pressure, being marked that way on the defensive end. Great players, right? The best players in the league. Tyler Hero wasn't able to overcome that. And again, like, I'm not blaming the series because I know a lot of Heat fans did that. A lot of Heat fans are like, oh, trade Hero. He's not that guy. He's a great complementary piece, a great scorer, somebody who can score at all 3 phases, but he can't lead your team. And I thought this series, it was something positive to come out of that, is that, like there's no more questioning that. He can be a great 3rd or 4th option on a team. He can't be a 1 or a 2 on a title contender.
He's a great complimentary piece. He's a good 6th man, but he's not a franchise guy. I mean, he's just not that guy. That's the way I see
Right,
it.
but I mean, look at Boston, right? I said this the other day on the air, and some people texted me back like, oh, they're different players. So I just want to preface this. I'm not saying Tyler Hero and Derek White are similar players, but look at Boston, right? I mean, they have their 2 franchise guys, Tatum and Brown, period. But Tatum and Brown have struggled to win without a great supporting cast, as any other duo or trio in the NBA would do. The Heat struggled here in Miami until they brought in Shane Battier.
Hey, it happened in Game 4. Exactly what you're talking about happened in Game 4 because, and I was going to talk about it. It's great you're mentioning it now. Tatum and Brown struggled in Game 4, and who went off and had 38 points?
Right.
None other than Derek White. And
White.
And what you're saying, Alex, is the Heat have their Jimmy and their Bam, so it's okay for Tyler, kind of like to be that third guy. Where if one A or B is not working, you can definitely count on C.
But and that's the idea, right? Like
right.
you have guys who are talented at scoring the basketball who can help take pressure off of your best guys. And if Jimmy and Bam struggle from the field, you can rely on a Terry Rozier, a Tyler Hero to go out there and put up scoring numbers. Like that was the idea when you made that Terry Rozier trade. Having Tyler Hero back this season, you were hoping healthy, especially for the postseason. It's that they would be able to handle the scoring load. And you let Bam go out there rebound, and just play the best defense, which is what he does, anchor your defense, and let Jimmy Butler be Jimmy Butler, which was towards the end of games, take over, make the right basketball decisions, get his teammates involved. And unfortunately, all those pieces just weren't on the floor together.
Yeah. Danny, you want to add on a little bit more? Add on a little bit more to that?
No, I mean, I think we kind of talked it
Okay.
up. It was just I just wanted to add exactly what we were talking about earlier. That just kind of what I mentioned, that Derek White just torched us in Game 4, and I thought that was the game that the Heat needed to take, especially after winning Game 2, so with such historic numbers, and then kind of just getting destroyed in the second quarter of Game 3. I thought they had to come out and win Game 4. And, I really, really thought they had a chance. But every time they tried to turn the corner, there came that bald Mr. White, man. And that guy is a bad man on that Miami Heat court, man. He is a bad man. I do not like him, man. I do not like him.
Nah, I mean, he's good. But again, that to me is like when you look at the best teams, championship teams, I mean, they all have guys like that, man. Like they all have guys that they're not responsible for winning you the games. They're not responsible for winning you series, but they're big contributors. And at any given moment, they can go off. And there's nothing wrong with Tyler being that guy. That's a positive. He's capable of that. He's capable of a 36-point game in the Eastern Conference Finals. We saw it as a rookie. He's just not capable of leading you in a series against the number 1 overall seed, maybe the best regular season team we've seen in over a decade.
All right, moving forward now. Now we just concluded the playoff talk, and we're going to move into now the aftermath of the season. There's been a lot of talk about Jimmy Butler's contract and the desire for an extension and so on. Alejandro, can you walk us through what's going on right now with Jimmy and the Heat talks?
Yeah, so he's under contract for this season, upcoming season, right? So not the one that just passed. Jimmy's under contract for next season. The following season is a player option. So what is being reported by the Miami Herald is that Jimmy Butler is going to pursue. He's up for a contract extension this season, right? He has 1 year left plus a player option. He's going to pursue a 3-year max extension, which is going to pay him, I don't remember the exact numbers, but like $190 million over those 3 seasons. So essentially, this upcoming season, he would still play out his contract no matter what. And then that extension would wipe off the player option and add on 2 more seasons. So that's the gist of what Jimmy Butler would be making. And yeah, I mean, what he would be asking for as long as a contract. And yeah, I mean, that final season, he would be 38 years old. I think he turns 35 in September. He would be 38 years old, and he'd be making like close to 60 million a season. I don't remember the exact numbers I don't have them in front of me. But if you just type in like Jimmy Butler extension, you can look him up, and he would be making a lot of money. But here's just my quick take on this. I'm not caught up on the long-term money. Truthfully, like I'm not. I know some people are, and that's fine. Everybody can view this differently. I'm not caught up on the long-term money. I wouldn't mind. I'm not saying the Heat will, because it certainly seems like Pat Riley. I mean, Pat Riley's statements were pretty straightforward. We haven't even talked about that. That, like he said, we haven't even talked about that extension. And it sounded like that extension's not coming for Jimmy Butler this summer. But who knows? That could change. There could be talks with the agent, whatever. But in my opinion, even if they were to give him that extension, right? I'm not upset about that, because I'm not worried about 3 seasons from now. Like, if they're giving him that extension, they're buying into, the Heat front office is buying into the fact that they're going to be able to put a team around Jimmy and Bam in the short term. That's this upcoming season. That's next season, which he's already under contract for anyways, this upcoming season and the player option the following year. Like, the short term, the next 2 seasons, they believe that they can maximize Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. And if they were, right, if they give Jimmy the extension, they satisfy what he's asking for, they satisfy his needs, and they're able to go out and make some trades happen, even though it doesn't look very likely, but make some trades happen and put another superstar or another really good prominent player around Jimmy and Bam, and the Heat are back competing next season, then nobody's going to care about that money. If the Heat win a title in the next 2 seasons, again, this is a big if. I'm not saying that they will, but if they were, which is the thought process of giving him that extension, they feel like they can win a title with Jimmy, then nobody's going to care what he's making 3-4 seasons from now. They're just not, because you get to that ultimate goal, which is competing for titles again. The bigger question is, can they maximize Jimmy and Bam with their current cap situation, and who would be available to make this roster a title contender? I don't know. I don't know the answers to that. But, as far as like the extension, I mean, I get both sides of it, but I don't get worked up about it, because like, if they don't feel like they can make this roster significantly better around Jimmy and Bam, they're not going to give him the extension. And Jimmy Butler, after playing next season, can deny his player option and he can go wherever he wants. And that's probably what would end up happening. So, that's kind of my take on the whole thing. Like, everybody's so incessant on, oh, don't pay him. How are you going to pay Jimmy Butler that much money? And it's like, well, if they're doing that, it's obviously because, they have a plan in place to try to put something else around them.
And I think that it's been clear, since Pat Riley has taken over the franchise back, in the mid 90s, and he'll be at the helm now for just about, 30 years. Essentially this Heat team has never rebuilt. Maybe once or twice. They usually retool. And so, I was just about to say, before Alex said, he didn't have the answers as to who would join a Jimmy and Bam team next season, if they do the extension. I was just about to say, this is the part where 305 Sports Now featuring the Solana brothers gets fun, because I was going to start asking Alex, as a Heat fan, and looking at it from a Heat fan's perspective, and now Alex being kind of, on the inside, but the outside of the organization. My question is, you invest, and I looked up the money. It would be, 25-26, he'd be making $54.3 million, and 26-27, when he's 37 years old, he'd be making 58.6. So that would be what Jimmy would be making if he signs that extension. So I'm thinking, okay, you've got two guys at the max in Bam and Jimmy. Who are you going to bring? Because the number one thing that Heat fans complain about today is, all right, you've already got all these other guys, and then you're pairing them up with a bunch of nobodies who Spo does everything he can to pull as much juice out of these guys as you can. The Haywood Highsmiths, the Max Struces, even the Gabe Vincents. If you look at the seasons that both of those guys had, it was nowhere near what Spo was able to get out of them last season and the year before. So my question to Alex, and again, you don't have the answer, but my question to Pat again, or the Heat organization, would be, you give Jimmy that contract extension, and are we stuck with, more Caleb Martins, more Haywood Highsmiths, coming off the bench? Because I would prefer to have, 2 or 3 superstars, maybe, something like, I don't want to say something like what the Suns have built, because that's obviously been a complete debacle, but, pairing up, 2 or 3 superstars would be fantastic. Who would that other superstar that they're going to bring in be? I don't want, I don't want to see a season where you have a bunch of two-way players coming off the bench again.
Yeah, but like giving Jimmy that extension doesn't keep you from signing another superstar if they were available, because it's not like Jimmy's $58 million and whatever. Bam, by the way, Bam is going to be up for another extension as well. They're gonna give him whatever the hell he wants. So
I would too.
Right.
I'd give him half of Miami.
Right. I mean, but just look at what the Celtics are doing now. Look at what the Suns are doing now. Like, you can put these teams together. The question is, do you want to dip into that second apron? You're going to get the hell taxed out of you. But Mickey Arison is shown that he'll do that if it's going to equal titles. He's not going to do that if it's to go sign Caleb Martin to a little extra money. Like right now, the Miami Heat, as it stands today, are already past that first apron, which makes this summer very, very difficult, from the sense that you can't. There's a new there's like a new rule, right? Where you can't sign or all right, let me phrase this properly. There's a new rule where you can't sign and trade for a player if when he's coming to you, you're above the first apron. So like there's already significant roadblocks for Miami to go out and get like, what people are hoping is a Paul George or of that caliber of player. Like why would Paul George take less money when he can go sign with the Philadelphia 76ers who have all the cap space in the world this offseason? So like there's significant roadblocks for Miami, but in my opinion, Jimmy Butler getting that extension in the short term, again, I'm thinking next season and the following season doesn't keep you from going out and trading for a disgruntled superstar, a Damian Lillard. Like you can make that math work because you have the contracts of Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier and I'm not saying that the Heat should trade these guys, but if you have the opportunity to go get, just as an example, Kevin Durant, I don't think KD is going to be available, but if you had that opportunity to go get a Kevin Durant, like you can make the money work. You can facilitate the trades necessary to open up the cap space to bring in a player of that caliber. And signing Jimmy to the extension doesn't keep you from that.
Right. But do you think KD, I mean, only because you mentioned him, do you think, and in your opinion, and maybe you too will, I mean, and again, I'm trying to take over the show, but this is an awesome conversation. Do you guys think KD has the DNA to be a Heat player? I mean, and I think it's an interesting question just because, and me, if you ask me personally, I think he does. If you ask me personally, I think he would make a fantastic Heat player because I believe in Pat Riley, and I'm a strong believer in culture.
What's the DNA of a Heat player? Only playing 60 games a season? That's what it's been.
No, it's somebody who eats, lives, and breathes culture.
Yeah, man. The guy he's super talented. You're telling me there's a Heat fan who wouldn't want Kevin Durant next to Bam and Jimmy Butler? Like, come on.
No, I mean, I'm just saying they would, but it's just a curious question because Pat Riley has known to rehabilitate so many careers in the past, like an Anthony Mason. That first name comes to mind, but other players as well. I mean, Isaac Austin. I mean, and you're even more recently. We just talked about it with Max Strus and things like that. Pat Riley and his system, his culture, that him and Spo have kind of instilled into this Heat franchise, along with Mickey Arison and the family. I mean, they've put together something that I think only one other franchise can match that, and that's the Spurs. I don't think there's any other franchise in the NBA that can. I mean, and maybe Oklahoma City because, man, they're doing it again this year. But, I mean, really what they've done as franchises is set themselves up because they have a formula that just works for them.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, man. For me, everybody, with the exception of Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, are on the table, as far as landing a big superstar. And I like Donovan Mitchell because I like the fact that he's young, he's a combo guard, and he can provide that scoring punch that was lacking, I think, in the playoffs as well. And there's rumors that he's not very happy in Cleveland, from what I've heard. It's not exactly a marriage made in heaven between Spider and that organization. So that's where I'm at. I love KD too. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to have KD as well. If they can make it work, they can make it work. But they do need somebody else. They can't be up, by 8 points and then blow a game. They can't have scoring droughts like that anymore. And bringing a guy like that, like either Spider, or Kevin Durant, and so on, would help this team. So that's where I'm at. I think they make the money work. Pat's done it before. He's traded off pieces. He's made the team better. So I think it's very possible that Andy Ellisberg and Pat Riley, McGarrison can make it work, even if they do sign Jimmy Butler. I don't like the money aspect of it, Alejandro, only because of his age. That's my only concern, is that he's making $58 million at the age of like almost 40 years old. Right. And not many guys are LeBron. Like LeBron is still playing at a high level at 40 years old. So that's where I'm at. They're gonna pay him that kind of max money with but if they win a championship, I could give a crap. It's their money, but I'm just saying.
That's my whole thing. Like if you're looking at this as, well, Jimmy Butler's going to be your best player in 4 seasons, and you're still going to need him to play 70 games a season and go become playoff Jimmy. Well, by that point, if that's what you're still banking on, the Heat have severely drop the ball on all levels. Like if Jimmy Butler in 2028, if you're still banking on Jimmy, Bam, and Tyler Hero, and like you still need playoff Jimmy to win you series, like yeah, I mean then the Heat have made significant errors year after year. So like I don't anticipate that being the reality. I just don't. Um, there's a lot of guys at the end of their career who are getting paid a lot of money and aren't the same guy. Look at Kyle Lowry. Like the Heat paid him 3 years, $30 million each season. Was he worth $30 million when the Heat brought him in? Probably not, especially not now, not this season. But could he have helped you win a championship? Absolutely. I'm not saying that this year he could have, but I'm saying in years prior, like in the first season, the second season, he was with Miami. A big part of the Heat getting to the NBA Finals, like he was a big contributor. Was he worth $30 million? No, but players get paid for what they've done all the time, and I understand that as an organization, you have to look at it objectively and say, hey, will this player be worth that at this point? And I realize that the answer is no. I think we're all in agreement. Nobody thinks Jimmy Butler is going to be worth $58 million at 38 years old. But I'm not caught up on 4 years from now. I'm more caught up on, okay, do the Heat believe that Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, those two, can win you a title if you pair them with one other player and surround them with a good enough team? And clearly the three of us are on agreement that they can. And if keeping that core intact means paying Jimmy Butler, and I'm fine with that. That's where I stand on it.
All right. Danny?
I mean, I agree, and it almost feels like the 2000, like just before the 2005, 2006 season when, the Heat had just come off, that 7-game series against the Detroit Pistons, losing Game 7. Damon Jones, the dummy, he missed the 3-pointer. Wade was hurt that season.
Turned the ball over.
I know, but it kind of feels like that offseason now where the Heat were kind of at a crossroads with Eddie Jones. And I feel like that's kind of how they are with Tyler Hero. They're kind of at a crossroads with Tyler Hero. The question is, can Pat Riley pull off another, slobber knocker of a trade like he did that year, which, was, if we remember, the biggest trade in NBA history. It bagged the Heat, Antoine Walker, Jason Williams, James Posey, among others. So can Pat Riley and Andy Ellisberg and company do something similar to that? And if they do, and they retain, Bam and Jimmy, I think the Heat are going to be dangerous again next year.
Well, Will, I think that type of trade just proves that like Pat's not afraid of trading a fan favorite. And not afraid of trading Jimmy Butler. I think, man, I think he made that very clear. Like when he told him to shut the hell up. Yeah. Told him to shut his mouth. So who knows, man? Like I'm sitting here telling you, I think Jimmy and Bam as a core are good enough to compete for a title. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into that, including finding one other important piece, which clearly means I'm suggesting that they need to move on from a couple current pieces. But who knows, man? Like maybe Pat Riley is sitting there in his office and he's saying, yeah, this group's not going to cut it. Maybe he doesn't believe that this group is going to cut it. And it wouldn't shock me. I don't think it would be the most surprising thing in the world if they ended up trading Jimmy. But where are they trading Jimmy to? That's another component here. Where or what situation are you getting back the assets necessary, or the assets you think Jimmy Butler is worth? There probably aren't many franchises willing to give up a lot for a 35-year-old player who wants a max extension. Not because Jimmy's not worth what he's making right now, but if you're trading for Jimmy, it's understood what he wants, which is that max extension. How many franchises are going to be willing to give up a haul knowing that they're going to have to pay him that extension as well?
Yeah. Well, this makes the NBA offseason a lot of fun too, and the trade deadlines and so on, is the fact that we can have these conversations and we can have these conversations as fans and have pretty much different perspectives or a similar perspective as well. All right, so Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here today at 305 Sports Now. Alejandro, where can they find you?
WQAM 2 to 6, and during the heat season, listen. If you're in the car, listen to the radio on the way to the game or after the game. Listen to your boy.
Absolutely. Dani, what about yourself?
Hey, you can find me on social media. I haven't gotten there yet. I don't think I ever will. But you can follow me at Dani Solana 5 on my social media. I talk Inter Miami. I'm a diehard Heat fan. So I got a show called The Battered Heat Fans that we do with some friends. But yeah, I just like to talk sports. So if you like to talk, sometimes I'm framed as a hater or a villain. My brother will tell you I'm kind of a nice guy sometimes. I'm a good cook though. Give me that.
Yeah.
My brother comes just to take the picture.
Hey, hold on a second, Will. You're not going to
Yes, sir.
ask us if LeBron James is coming to Miami?
Oh my God, that's right. That's right.
What happened?
That's right. Nah, that's my bad, brother. That's my bad. Is he coming? What do you think? I'll be like, oh, okay. Yeah. What do you think?
I'm not kidding. Had you asked me this question an hour ago, before I was watching the Cavs Celtics game and I saw LeBron sitting courtside at the Cavs game, I would have given you the conspiracy of Pat Riley opening up his end of season presser, the state of the Heat, if you will, with a LeBron story. I mean, why the hell would Pat open up with a LeBron story if he wasn't flirting a little,
Yeah.
just a little flirty. But now LeBron's sitting courtside with Maverick Carter and his wife at the Cleveland game. Yeah,
but that's home. No, but that's home. So maybe he's just home, in the off season. I know Pat left the key under the mat.
That was for Dwayne. I don't know if he left the key under the mat for LeBron.
Well, then he draft Napier. He can draft Bronny.
That's the one way to get LeBron on the team. He did draft Napier. My God, man, that was an interesting year. Yeah. Everyone was so pissed, man, that year. I'll never forget that. We're so angry that occurred. And so I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm like Dono. I was on Team Petty for a while.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Yeah, Team Petty for a while, man. Donald was mentioned on the radio. I'm like, yeah, I'm the same way, man. Same way. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining. Alejandro, it's always a great time having you on, of course. Guys, you got to watch and you got to listen to Hockman and Crowder. They are absolutely hilarious on your drive home. All you got to do is go to 560 as well. And also, guys, if you want to get to know a little bit about Inter Miami soccer as well, or football, to properly call it, check out Danny's channel as well, This East Football, right, as well. And of course, Battered Heat fans as well, as we are Battered Heat fans, but not Battered Panthers fans. I'll tell you that much. It's great to be a Cats fan. I'll tell you that much. All right, ladies and gents, have a blessed day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the 5 Sports Now. Once again, I'm Will, for Alejandro Solana and Dani Solana. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye-bye. Go Heat.